Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. Two amazing guests today. Again, go to my website, toldtutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Told Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Told Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, and Google Plus, Neil Haley. And continue the marathon of interviews, doing 3 hours to record 3 hours of television and 6 episodes, and we're on the final run of these. And I had a variety of guests and a lot of fun. And last night I had an interview, so I guess 10 interviews in almost less than 24 hours. So I'm excited to welcome the program Doug Lemov, author of Teach Like a Champion 2.0. Doug, thanks for calling, and how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the program again because it's something that I think that you really need to teach like a champion, especially with the challenges that are happening in today's schools. A lot of the ability that to have kids be successful, but ultimately sometimes not having the direction needed. So that's probably why you wrote the book. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think you could even frame it a little bit more optimistically, which is no matter where kids are, education and teaching is so important that there's no reason not to be better. And so, like realistically, there are challenges in schools, and it's about making teachers better, but it's also about no matter how good you are, finding ways to improve a little bit. I talked to a teacher a couple days ago who had been doing it for 10 years, and she said, I just kind of run out of new ways to think about getting better, and this helped me a lot. I didn't agree with everything in the book, but there were 5 or 6 things that I thought, wow, I can do that, and I can get better. And I think that's exciting too.
Well, it's definitely exciting because, I was talking to somebody else today that people that can help form teachers, especially when they're already in the classroom, Doug, so key. Because a lot of times the student teaching experience is a great experience, but too short of a time, and then you're thrown into a classroom. What to do next? How am I going to be successful, especially with today in the 21st century type of learning environment? And I think that's the big thing. And what we're hearing about in education, a lot of things negative. And Doug, I'm glad you brought up the whole positive thing. But as a journalist, I sometimes look at the negative. But there is a lot of positive things happening that we're looking to form teachers better. We're looking at the education process not ending after they get their degree and get their certification, but it's an ongoing, lifelong process, correct?
Absolutely. To me, I'm so optimistic about teaching. First of all, it's such challenging work. To do it well, you have to be a problem solver and an entrepreneur. We could talk about all the incredible challenges that teachers face every day in the classroom. There's going to be a kid who you're going to try and teach who doesn't want to be taught.
Right.
For whatever reason, it's not your fault. It's not really his fault. But he's got his hoodie up over his head and he wants to be left alone in the corner of the room. And you're the one person who has the opportunity to make a difference and say, actually, I can inspire you. Actually, I have expectations for you, and I'm going to require you to take your hoodie off and to listen and to give your best, because if I don't, it's not okay for you to hide in the corner of my room for a year. And so, teachers are great at problem solving those things. The rest of society could learn from teachers. I think the solutions are out there to the problems that we know, the challenges that we know we're going to face in the classroom. We just aren't intentional enough about finding the people who have developed those solutions and studying them and learning from them. And to me, one of the joys of that is it makes teachers participants in developing the knowledge base of the field instead of teachers getting told by other people how to do their jobs. Studying teachers is a way of saying, actually, teachers should be telling the best among us should be helping us figure out how to solve the problems that we know we're going to face.
Definitely, absolutely, and I think that's the key component. I'm sure your audience is not just teachers currently, but the teachers that are about to go and student teach. You want them to learn, and that people can benefit from this book. So many different people, in so many ways.
Can I say one thing about young teachers? The failure rate in inner city classrooms is 50% right now, according to some measures, over 3 years. Right, half the people who decide to make this their career, knowing that they're going to make sacrifices for it, they fail and they leave and they become real estate agents and things like that.
Right.
And oftentimes the solution is right down the hall. Right, there's some champion teacher, 3 classrooms down, who's got the solution to the problem that's killing them, and nobody knows who she is. Nobody says go down the hall and watch her. And so if you're a young teacher or you're aspiring to be a teacher, to some degree, don't forget you can take that in your own hands. You can find great teachers that are out there. They're in every building. the first step when you're struggling is to go and study someone who can show you solutions.
So true, and that's the thing, that you're only going to learn how to become a good teacher by learning from others. And on our model, we close the door and we try to figure it out ourselves. And when you're talking about the inner cities, Doug, it's over. You're finished because, and I remember my days in the inner cities, and the first time not having the success as getting the experience to work in an easier environment, meaning an affluent environment, learn my teaching styles, learn specifically my craft, then go back into the inner city and have success. That's what I did. And because if I didn't understand the learner, I believe we're scientists in so many ways, Doug, and you talk about the entrepreneur, I believe that too, but we have to problem solve. We have to figure out how kids learn. And many people are missing that boat. I know you're going to be the positive one, Doug. I will always kind of bring a different point of view because I work with kids all over and I see these teachers and I shake my head, Doug. I say the simplest thing is checking for understanding. They don't do because they don't have people like yourself to help form them, for sure.
Well, it's very interesting. I'm so glad you mentioned check for understanding because, in the first version of Teach Like a Champion, it was one technique. And I kind of, I guess I knew that it was important. It was kind of buried in the chapter on lesson structure. And over the course of listening to teachers and studying teachers over 4 or 5 years since the first version of the book, I realized that, this is the most important thing that teachers do in the classroom.
Yes, so important.
John Wooden, great basketball coach, who, by the way, was an English teacher in his first job and always thought of himself as a teacher.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and interestingly, not only read poetry to his basketball teams, but he perceived his success because of the way he taught in the classroom that he called the practice session. And so people said, well, what did he do during the game? But really it was what he did in practice that made him great. But he has this great quote where he says, great teaching is recognizing the difference between I taught it and they learned it.
Yes.
And so I kind of realized, this is the most important thing that a great teacher does. And so I spent a year watching what teachers do in the most pragmatic way to figure out, that's an easy thing to tell someone. Hey, you gotta understand what your kids know and what they don't know and react to that.
Yes.
And it's an incredibly hard thing to do. And so I think it's typical of teaching challenges. It's simple, philosophically, theoretically. It's incredibly difficult to execute with 31 sixth graders learning, expressions with two variables and having to circulate in 3 minutes while they do independent work and figure out who knows what and who doesn't.
And then why do we teach? And why do the problem is we assess too early? It's our whole year leading into the standardized testing. If we can take that process of having all our students develop growth, which the nice thing about the way things are changing in education after NCLB is we're looking at individual student growth. We're no longer looking at a group as a core and that's how a teacher fails or passes or fails. We're looking at each individual student and seeing how they grow. And through this process of how we're in this ed reform movement in a different direction from President Bush's regime to President Obama's to our new president soon, we're learning that, or reauthorization of NCLB, we're learning that the teacher has to look at each individual student, where they have them at the beginning of the year, and by checking for understanding, where they end up at the end of the year.
That's right.
But it seems so. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it seems so simple, Doug. Yet, lots of teachers don't get it.
It's so hard. And what's fascinating to me is how many teachers do get it, but struggle to execute. I feel like this was me as a teacher when I was, I knew there were things that I should do, and I meant to do them, and often I tried to do them. But executing with fidelity in the midst of a lesson to 31, ninth graders, sixth graders, or third graders is hard. We talk about this in our workshops. We call it the get it, do it gap. That we used to think if you can identify what a great teacher does and show a couple of teachers, here are videos of great teachers in different settings, in different classrooms doing that thing, that would be 90% of the way to the solution. What we found is it's 10% of the way there, and that you have to practice it and plan for it before you go into the classroom. And because the setting in which we have to execute as teachers is among the hardest settings to execute.
Yes.
Of any profession out there, right? Like nobody goes out and expects to execute their difficult, challenging work as a lawyer, doing it live in front of 31 sixth graders.
No,
That's just us. So part of it also is, I think, is how we think, not just the content of what we're training people to do, but how we train them. We're a performance profession, and we go live 4 or 5 times a day in front of a group of kids. And so what we often do in professional development is we talk about things and we reflect on things, but what we don't do is practice. And practice pretending to ask questions to our colleagues as if they're kids and hearing their answers and reacting to them in the moment. And so no wonder it's really hard to react in the moment to student answers, in our lessons because we haven't practiced it. So I think that is one of the takeaways for me from watching great teachers master challenges. Is simple ideas not simple to execute, and to make that happen, you just have to practice and practice together. Which is nice. You talk about closing your door. Makes teaching a team sport. If I get together with my 7th grade colleagues
Right.
and we practice asking kids questions from our math lessons for next week, and we practice giving each other plausible but wrong answers that we think our kids will give, and reacting to them in the moment, and productively.
Right.
In practice, we'll get some wrong and we'll get some right. But when we walk into the classroom the next week, our responses to student errors will be so much stronger, and we will be so much more confident facing those errors because we will have practiced it.
All right, well, Doug, I wish I had more time. I hope I can reach out to you and have you as a contributor on the Toll Education Network. So we'll definitely stay in touch so you can be part of roundtable discussions with other educators to really help with this process of teaching like a champion for sure. Where's the best place we can purchase your book and learn more about you, Doug?
Yeah, well, I have a blog. It's teachlikeachampion.com/blog. That's a place where I post new ideas and new videos as I learn things as I'm studying teacher. You can get the book, Teach Like a Champion 2.0, Amazon.com is an easy place to find it, and you can order it and have it in your mailbox in 2 days.
All right, well, Doug, I enjoyed it. I hope you continue to help form great teachers so that you can change the pendulum and change the way education's being taught, because it's simple. Check for understanding, deliver, it's an art, and people have to understand it's not impossible to do, yet you need direction because you have champion teachers in your building that have their doors closed that you can be watching to be success. So thanks again for calling,
Great.
Doug. Take care.
Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye. All right, you're listening to the Neil Haley Show, watching the Neil Haley Show, and listening to Author's Corner. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hi, my name's Jim Corns, and this is John Bauer, and we're paramedics with Tri-Community South EMS.
This year, EMS Week is May 17th through May 23rd. Tri-Community South EMS would like to use this week to start our campaign on distracted driving.
Distracted driving has been called an epidemic. Unfortunately, many of us drive distracted. So what is distracted driving?
It is driving while engaged in any activity that could divert a person's attention away from the prime task of driving.
Texting, making phone calls, putting on makeup, reaching for objects, changing the CD or radio channel is part of an endless list that put us at risk. The following statistics should make each of us think about making changes in the way we drive or ride in a car. In 2012, over 3,000 people were killed and 421,000 were injured as a result of distracted driving.
In 2011, it was estimated that a typical daylight moment, at least 660,000 cars were being driven by drivers using handheld cell phones.
40% of teenagers have been in a car with a person using a cell phone while driving in a way that put others in danger. Driving while using a cell phone reduces the amount of brain activity devoted to driving by 37%.
Change the way you drive. Speak up for your safety.
Drive without texting or talking on your cell phone. Make calls or texts prior to driving. Pull over to a safe location to text or check emails. Stop texting or talking on cell phones to others that are driving. It all starts with you.
In honor of EMS Week, Tri-Community South would like to thank and recognize our staff
for the work they do in keeping our community safe. For more information on Tri-Community South EMS, our CPR classes, or our Speakers Bureau, visit tcsems.org.
We're back to the Neil Haley Show. I guess the marathon of interviews of 6 episodes of the Neil Haley Show. For my television viewing audience, I want you to tweet me at Total Tutor. Are you watching it on BPTV? Are you watching it on YouTube? Are you watching it on Vimeo? Are you watching it on all these other measurements? I need to know by going at Total Tutor, and tell me what types of guests, because I had a variety of guests today, and I'm finishing up with somebody that, you know what, we did a late night interview, so I decided to give you an early morning interview, so it's a payback, right? So I'm excited to welcome, I'm really excited to welcome the program, best-selling author, Alan Mindell, author of The B Team. Alan, thanks for calling, and so you stayed up late with me, now I'm waking you up very early, and so how are you?
Turnabout is fair play, Neil, and thank you. I'm doing very, very well, and I'm really pleased with the results of the B Team so far. It's been a lot of fun, and people are interested in it. And the idea of a one-eyed racehorse performing in the Kentucky Derby seems to be captivating.
And you also being in the Senior Olympics and all these different things, and your other book, and that was your first novel that you just had a blast writing. And I remember talking, I'm like, man, you ripped out this book quickly. How long ago when you were on my show last, Alan?
It's been over a year, actually, Neil. It's been over a year, and it's, again, a lot of fun, both with the closer, that's the other book, which is a baseball love story, and, of course, this book. And then in between, I'm performing at track meets, so it's I'm pretty active. Not as active as you are, clearly, but pretty active.
Well, people say I have the energy that's unbelievable. With 5 kids and own a tutoring consulting company, own a radio network, and do television and do social media. And I'm just so glad you reached out to me, Alan, because you're a tremendous guy, and it's a perfect fit to talk about this, because you think about a long shot. I think what this helps in this process of this book is all of us feel like long shots at times in life. And I think you do as well, so you kind of speak as the horse in ways. Would you agree, Alan?
You're right on with that, Neil. In fact, all the main characters are underdogs in this book, and they all get together and they purchase an underdog himself, a one-eyed racehorse, and and things go really well from there, and it's kind of exciting. So it's almost a fantasy of mine, to tell you the truth. To have a horse in the Kentucky Derby, that's a dream. And so it'll never happen in reality, but in fiction, anything can happen.
Or the movies someday, maybe, with the success of your book. I hope so for you.
Thank you for mentioning that. Actually, I've just finished penning a screenplay, and we're going to send it off to Hollywood contacts, and hopefully we'll get lucky there.
Well, I'll keep you in mind. When you become big, you better still come on my show, Alan. And you become big time, and I'll say, oh, I knew him when. And so when he talks about this, again, being part of senior Olympic type stuff and doing different things, Alan, this is all a love for you, just for our viewing audience that might have not gotten the chance to listen to our interview before, that this was a long shot for you as well, after later in life, to do all these things, right? For sure.
Without question.
Write a book.
Yeah. In fact, what I've been doing, Neil, is I've had the opportunity to do a number of talks on the subject of life begins at 70. And I usually do a couple of talks a week to various organizations. And I spoke to school kids about a month or so ago, and it's just been a dream come true to be able to do all this, as you say, late in life.
Well, it makes
Remember the old adage of life begins at 40?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's life beginning at 70, and so I'm using that as my kicker on this. So
I'm going to applaud you for that, Alan, because the thing is, in ways, I'm never going to retire, because this doesn't feel like work to me, any of the stuff. Even though this is not the stuff I get paid for, my business of tutoring consulting is where I make my money and do some social media and branding for companies. But everything I do is just amazing. If you knew I woke up today at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive down to the studios to do this and say 3 hours and then just to have this passion and just say what a great experience of interviewing such interesting people all day, and to finish up with you is a perfect for sure. Now,
well, thank you. My hunch is that you're definitely not going to retire. In fact, instead of doing 3 hours of interviews, you're going to do 6 hours of interviews later in life. That's my hunch because I can feel it.
I'd love to do it when my kids are all grown and I'm retired, or not. I'm not retired, but I will go and do documentaries and interview the most famous people that I wouldn't get the chance to interview now. I get some famous, but I'm talking big time people of documentaries and stuff like that to do really those interviews, because it's up to you. And this is what's so amazing in your life is that you can choose after you retire to do what you love if you did not do it your whole life. And you did that, right? Yes.
That's exactly what I do, and that's exactly what I tell folks when I do my talks. It's never, ever too late.
Never.
Just keep trying and pick out something that you're good at and go for it and have fun in the process, Neil. That's the main thing.
My wife wouldn't want me to say I'm going to go back in the ring at 70. But we'll see. We'll see if you knew my pro wrestling background, right, Alan?
No, I didn't realize.
No, you didn't. See, I can't even. It's amazing. It's funny where I remember you completely just when I saw the picture. But I don't know how many people I've interviewed in over 5 years and how many shows I've done. I would need a fact team to come up with all that different stuff. But it's just amazing. Now, I love the story because One-Eye Bandit, giving a horse a shot that only has one eye. What were people saying about this in the story? Because we don't want to give away a lot of it, but basically, no way this horse should have been put down, right? Or this horse should never have been a thoroughbred, right?
Well, not necessarily put down, because there are one-eyed horses,
okay.
But typically, they're at a real disadvantage. They get skittish and don't perform too well. But this horse, and it kind of fits into exactly what we're speaking about. He has tremendous heart.
Yes.
In fact, a couple of times in the novel, somebody comments, well, maybe you can only see with one eye, but he makes up for it with his heart, and that's kind of the thing. He also becomes a spokesperson of sorts for people with handicaps. He gets fan mail and so on and so forth, and he becomes a kind of a very, very, very popular leading type of individual, as it were. So, and then it becomes a question of whether he belongs in the Kentucky Derby, because it's very rare that there are one-eyed horses in the Kentucky Derby, and so he gets belittled in the process. But as far as he's concerned, Neil, he belongs, and and I won't give away what happens, but he proves it. And
that's tremendous. And I hope it's a movie. I'm just going to keep thinking of you and thinking of those opportunities. And really, when we talked the first time, Alan, you were happy you wrote a novel. And now, after this success already, you're like, wow, what's next for Alan Mindell? I really think that's what's happening, and the tremendous things. Now, for your background, because I don't want to give away a lot of the book, and I think it's all about you, and you're the brand in so many ways, Alan, because of your story. I could see you one day being on 60 Minutes or something for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Different. It'll happen, trust me. Because
I'll drag you with me, Neil. I'm going to drag you with me, whether you want to come or not. Okay?
Well, then you're going to have to talk to me about specifically how you go out and do that, because your story is amazing. What were you doing beforehand? Because you'll get mad at me. I asked that question before, but I can't remember everything.
No problem. Actually, and in fact, I still am in the tour business. My day job is as a tour guide. So, I founded a tour company over 40 years ago, and I still work for the tour company. And that's a lot of fun, too, to say the least.
So the tour company is in San Diego, right? Correct?
It's actually in Los Angeles. If you don't mind, the name is Friendly Excursions.
Sure.
And it's actually based in Los Angeles, and we serve primarily older people.
Interesting. Okay.
So when we take them on tours and this sort of thing, haven't gone to Pittsburgh as part of the tour program yet, but don't be surprised. So
no. So here's a question about your tour company. But are you live in San Diego or you live in LA?
I'm actually in the San Diego area.
Okay, so I remember San Diego because I said how beautiful, because I went to Darren Hardy's in La Jolla, and it was beautiful. I mentioned it to a person who used to work in San Diego and then moved to St. Louis, a baseball author, Stan McNeil, who worked in San Diego media for a while, a long time ago. So it's kind of these connections that I've made in these 9 interviews for 3 hours is amazing, and how I make connections with people. But I'm so excited for you. I really am. It's a tremendous story, and your first book. Was that published? Your first book, or is this the story?
The first book was published and published by Sunbury Press, if I could say, and they're an independent publisher, but a traditional publisher. Neither of my books has been self-published; both are traditionally published, and the first book continues to do well. Of course, I continue to go out and promote, so it continues to do well. And in fact, in 2014, it was the #1 bestseller of all of Sunbury's books.
Really? Oh,
and
wow!
They have over 300 books on their list. So I was thrilled with that. And it's as recently as the month of let's see, what are we in? As the month of February, I believe it was like #4 on their list. So it keeps on selling.
I'm proud of you. I'm so excited for you. And I tell you, just talk to me and I'll tell you some ideas how you get this next story. If you're a best-selling author with that is part of the Senior Olympics, doing all these different things, you have to. I believe you really have to be on a 60 Minutes Life After 7. This is something that will be a documentary on your life. I really believe that.
Would you please serve as my agent?
Hey, someone else told me that was one of the rich kids from Beverly Hills. But we'll talk. We'll definitely.
Please. And again, it would be my pleasure. I love this stuff, Neil. I mean, I absolutely love it. And so, if you could cut any kind of a deal, where you get to 95% and I get 5%, whatever, because I just love this stuff, and as do you, obviously.
Well, we're definitely going to reach out and talk again, and that's hilarious for saying this. This is my second agent opportunity. I guess I'm the jack of all trades and as an entrepreneur, but I've learned to help people, but I already could see just a tremendous story for you, for sure. So best place we can purchase the book and learn more about you, Alan, where can we go?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can order it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it from Sunbury Press. Any of the above.
All right, well, fantastic. I'm going to call you, and we'll talk next week for like a call to kind of talk about specific ways how we can help each other out and see how it will work. Because, again, I think you've noticed that I'm all over the place on radio, TV, and the internet. So good talking to you.
You're the man.
Oh,
You're the man.
You're the man, too, Alan. So thanks again for calling, and best of luck.
Thank you very much, Neil.
All right, take care. Okay, bye-bye. All right, that was Alan Mindell. What a great, again, Neil Haley show. Fantastic show. Go to my website, toldtutor.net for more information. Twitter, Told Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. LinkedIn, Neil Haley, Instagram, Told Tutor, Pinterest, Neil Haley, and Google+. This is the second agent opportunity. I had someone from the Rich Kids of Beverly Hills, award-winning author. I guess I am the promoter of promoters, and I learned that from a lot of mentors in wrestling. And someday my memoir, trust me, it will come. So take care, guys, and we'll talk next week. Good day, everyone.
The American Legion, we're a powerful force for the nation. We work relentlessly within our 4 pillars of service, and we succeed. Go to legion.org to find out more about the American Legion's commitment of service to America.